Welcome to Professor Pincushion. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can print on fabric using your own inkjet printer. It's great for customizing your project with photos or for creating labels like this. I'm going to focus on how to create your own fabric labels, and we even have a template available to download so you can follow along with us. So let's get started. To print on your fabric, you're going to need the following items. First and foremost, you need some Bubble Jet Set 2000, and we'll put a link on our site on where you can order this. Now, this is important because it treats our fabric so that it holds the ink and it's not going to run. As far as fabric is concerned, you're either going to want to use 100% cotton or 100% silk. If you use synthetic fabrics, it really doesn't work as well. You also need a mild detergent. And I'm just using the Bubble Jet Rinse because it came as a set with this one. But if you just have a mild detergent used for cold hand washing, that'll work just as well. Freezer paper can be picked up at the grocery store. Optional, you can use some double-sided fusible webbing. This is what we use for creating appliques, and I'm going to use it for creating my labels. So that's why I have this piece. You need an iron and ironing board. And then also what's not seen here is you're going to need your computer and an inkjet printer. The first thing I do is cut out a piece of fabric, and I make sure that I cut it out 10 by 12. I want it a little bit bigger because I'm going to wash it first, and I want to make sure that it's not going to shrink too much because I want the end results to be 8.5 by 11. So I can either pre-wash it in this, or you can just do whatever mild detergent you have, but make sure you wash it and then you dry it and then you press it. For my freezer paper, I'm going to go ahead and cut out a piece that's 8.5 by 11, which will fit in my printer. Next, get a flat pan or a plastic container, and you're going to take your Bubble Jet Set. You're going to make sure that you shake it well, and if you want to use gloves, it's a good idea to use gloves. You're going to pour it into your container just enough to cover your fabric. So you don't have to pour it all in there. And you're going to place your fabric in there, and you're going to allow it to soak for about 5 minutes. And if you're doing multiple fabrics, you can go ahead and remove your fabric after this is soaked for 5 minutes and then do multiple sheets, so you're not wasting the Bubble Jet Set. After your fabric has dried from the Bubble Jet Set, you're going to go ahead and you're going to press it so there's minimum wrinkles in it. Then you're going to grab your freezer paper, and again, this should be 8.5 by 11. So it should be a little bit smaller than your fabric. Now the freezer paper, you'll have one side that has a waxy finish and the other side just feels like paper. The waxy side goes to the fabric. And it actually is really nice to use on fabric because it temporarily holds it. It gives us something to feed through our printer, but you can just rip it off and it's not going to leave any residue. And if you make a mistake, you can rip it off and iron it on again. So I have my iron heating up. Just carefully lay it down for a few seconds and then lift it up and move it over to the next section. If you just kind of just move your iron across, you may get wrinkles in your fabric. So I'm going to iron it so all sides are sticking, and then I'm going to cut off my fabric, whatever is excess, because I definitely want it to fit the freezer paper exactly. Next, you're going to print your image or your labels on your fabric. Now, I tested this out with brand name and generic ink, and what I found was it really didn't make a difference. So if you're only using generic ink, it should work fine. The most important thing, though, is placing your fabric correctly into the paper tray, since all printers are differently. So it's either going to go with the fabric side up or the freezer paper side up. You need to run a couple of tests, and I just do this with a couple of regular pieces of paper. So just take a piece of paper, on one side, write out the word test on the paper, place it in the tray either with test side up or test side written face down, just so you make note of it. Then you're going to print out something, either just type out a couple of words or just print anything. When it comes out, you're going to see which side it's printed on, and you're going to make note of that. So then when you place your fabric paper in here, you know which side to put it so it correctly prints on the fabric side and not on the paper side. If you'd like more specific information on our printer settings, check out the description box. Also, this template is available to download on our website if you want just a simple label to do handmade by, and you can customize it with your name. After you finish printing it, make sure that you have this sit for 30 minutes so the ink can dry. After it finishes drying, you can go ahead, peel off the freezer paper, and then you could take this and I would go ahead and do a mild washing again. I'm just going to go ahead and use my bubble jet rinse, but you can just use a regular mild detergent. That way, if any ink is going to come off, it comes off at this point and not after it's already attached to a garment or a project. The nice thing about printing on fabric is there's just so much more you can do in customizing your projects. So you can see I can also print an image, so I can create custom quilt squares. I can do it on purses or bags or whatever. I mean, it's just so much fun you can have with this. So I just wanted to show you the difference. This is what I had just shown you, that I did everything. I did the rinse first, so I did a hand cold wash of my fabric, pre-treating it before I did anything. Then I soaked it in the jet set. I printed it using generic ink, and then I did my cold hand wash again. This one, I didn't do anything. I just printed it directly on my fabric with the freezer paper on the back. And this is after one cold hand wash. And you can see it's completely different. I've lost all detail compared to this one. I mean, this one pretty much looks like a photo. If you wish to iron on your fabric onto another fabric and not really sew the pieces together, then you're going to use the double-sided fusible webbing, which is what they use for appliqué, and which is what I'm going to use for creating my labels. So I can cut out my labels as I need them and then iron them onto another piece of fabric. Now my fusible webbing, some webbing's different, but mine has paper on two sides, and one side or one paper will come off pretty easily. Sometimes they only have paper on one side. So you can actually feel the fusible webbing, and then you have your paper on the other side. So I'm going to turn this over so it's on the wrong side. And then the side that has the fusible webbing, that's going to go to the wrong side of your fabric. And you're just going to carefully lie it down. This one's actually a little sticky. So I'm going to lie it down. Then my iron is already heating up. So I'm just carefully going to iron it. Just like I did with the freezer paper, instead of just shifting my iron over, I'm just going to carefully set it down for a few seconds, lift it, move it, set it down. When I need a label, all I have to do is cut one out of my sheet. You're going to peel off the paper backing on the other side. So now you can feel the fusible webbing on the back of your label. And if the paper doesn't come off very easily, it probably just needs some more heat. Place it where I would like, and then iron it for a few seconds there. Now you can just leave it like this. If you want it to look a little bit more professional, maybe do a satin stitch or a zigzag stitch around the perimeter of your label. That way it'll be sure to stay in place. Here's a closer look at our label. Now you could totally customize this so you can insert your own graphics, or what else you can do is put the fabric content or the care instructions. But this is a nice way to sign your garments or your projects and make it look more professional. Make sure to check out our other videos and visit ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 150 sewing video tutorials. New tutorials are released regularly, so make sure to subscribe to be notified of the next release. Thanks for watching!